Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to continue to take a look at the scenario where everything goes perfect for the purple team. So the last episode was pretty short, only 10 minutes long, and we took a look at some proxy things, proxy wars and stuff. But today we're going to take a look at what it might be the final episode of this wonderful series. So let's get into it. We will start here in Australia. We will see the Korean will make this will actually be turned into a dominion of Tasmania, and it's a Korean dominion. And they do this because they're getting the pretty stable. While they still expand though, we're actually see the Indonesian Federation doing their last expansion, and now another colonizer will come. Hold up, I think they already did. Yeah, shit, sorry I messed up. Sorry, Galicia fans. So we're going to see Korea colonizing this then, and they are getting to the north, and they're actually making another dominion over here in New Zealand. It's going to be the same color, but they are different countries. And you can see this. And with that, almost the entire world has been discovered, and we still have to take a look at some islands. For this one island, I say Korea will get it. And here we go. Well, this is Galician territory. This is Galician territory, and so you see this, which is an independent state. I think they're going to form a federation with all these islands. They're forming the Pacific Federation. It's nothing. It's nothing that's wrong. It's just a federation which is chilling. We actually do see this happening. Now the entire world is discovered, and that's one of the things we have to do. But now we will take a look at Brazil, because they will have to give up some land. We do actually see this other Peruvian country gaining independence. In return, they are in the squares though, so it's a new ally basically. And it's still pretty close to Brazil. We actually do see here Hibernia having to. Here we go, we can actually see that Hibernia had to make this country break away, and they're chilling. They're not going to chill for a while. We actually see that the tensions in the world are rising because of all of these places where there is tension, because right now nothing can happen. Greece will join the squares if they already. We're actually going to see this orange Bulgarian country. I think they were allies with Gold Ukraine. Let's just say the treaty expired. They're getting invaded. Oh, I'm not going occupation forces for now, chat. I'm too bored. I'm too lazy right now. Do you see this country getting jumped? Orange Bulgaria will still survive, and they will only have land in Bulgaria, which makes more sense. Big farm era we see. But now borders are locking. Tensions in the world have never been decided. Let's just say that the squares probably got into nukes, and they have, thanks to the Dutch, Rome will probably do something to counter them. We'll see most some of the Circle Alliance getting is, and thanks to China and Korea, they're actually getting nukes. And now the chaos is happening. The world holds its breath. Well, for now, nothing happens. But then, the old empire leader gets assassinated. Yep, it happens in this timeline too, because the old empire is a threat. And guess what happens? They immediately blame this entire country, this over here, and they think they're easily on this. They're easily kill the old empire leader to get the control of it. But countries think it's what they're going to say it's not true and it's a fake and it's not. And those are just rumors, fake stuff. But this is not going to help. And the case is turning. And then the old empire vice president, which took lead, is sending the ultimatum to send some spies to go on and investigate. The circles don't want the squares to find out any of the stuff. So, yeah, they're actually refusing the ultimatum. And guess what's about to happen? Oh, that's not good. All the Imperial troops have just crossed the border. And with that, World War III has just begun between the squares and the circles. So, how can they win this? We will just take a look at the front where everything started first. So, we're going to see all the Imperial troops marching in. They will try to do this. They will also go on and try to march into Persia because they know they're going to intervene. The Persians are actually pretty strong, and they managed to do this. They managed to make an offensive, and they might reach the capital. Yeah, this is insane. Then we see Caspia joining to beat the old empire. They still hates them, and they want them to sink. So they're still joining the circles, which might help. Who knows? But now we're actually going to take a look at the Greek front. We see Roman troops crossing into the Greek border. Greece did kind of expect this. We actually see the former Union having to suffer a lot because they're surrounded by circle team members. Guess what's happening? So we see this happening. The former Union is getting it's in a bad position, but not only that. So we see that all the Ukrainian troops are focusing basically on there. And they're also marching into Greece because they knew this war was going to come eventually. And they knew. Well, Crete still sucks though. They're still pretty weak. Greece had more time to prepare. They're totally pretty even, but Greek is still repelling any naval invasion attempt. And they're actually going to not going to use occupation force for Greece. They're occupying some islands. And we'll see what will happen to this. Which will see the former units still losing land. But like really losing land and still getting invaded. The Romans are doing another push. Actually see them using this occupied lands to march But now we're going to take a look at the battle of the navies between the African Union and Rome. Now, this might be one of the the hardest battles of World War III, because the African Union is pretty strong on on the outside, but there's actually still the Moroccan part which disagrees with some stuff. Well, there is a problem though. Hibernia basically kept alive the African Union, but without them, well, they're busy fighting. So this means, yup, there still is going to be a West African rebellion. Morocco, we'll call them Morocco. Don't worry, guys. Really going to say this rebellion is pretty interesting. And it's cutting the African Union in two. This leads to Orange Guinea not being supplied enough. Oh yeah, Galicia is also Galicia is surprisingly jumping the African countries. Like they're doing the job. They actually know how to fight. Actually know how to keep these big powers in hold. They also do this naval landing, which might be devastating, but don't worry because Hibernia is still strong and yeah, we actually see Hibernia making some attacks and also liberating because Hibernia is stronger than Galicia and they can win battles. I'm actually going to take a look at the Asian front because India is kind of isolated, but nonetheless, they're still fighting. Oh, urge Afghanistan will be neutral for this war because I forgot which side were they on. Actually, see India doing this, also doing this. I think Tibet is gonna chill. They're going to chill in this war too. Bangladesh is stronger than the original timeline, but it's still weaker than India. India's still a pretty strong country. Meanwhile, China is sending aid to Bangladesh. Then we're actually seeing Vietnam, of course, joining on the war because they want to be the strongest country. Well, this leads to something happen. We see the formation of South China, and this was actually planned by China the whole time, and also Korea, and they're joining the war. They knew Vietnam could do something like this, and they're doing stuff. And they're doing stuff because China is, of course, aiding them with all the equipment and all the things they need. And we actually do see the Indonesian Federation doing some minor incursions. And Vietnam is actually defending themselves pretty well and they might survive this. Who knows? We're actually going here now to the probably one of the most important fronts for World War III. We saw that the Hibernians are actually doing pretty good. Actually going to see Catalonia doing something incredible, which is to join the circles to help the Green French brothers, and this is going to do. Let's just say this is going to do stuff because actually I'm going to use occupation forces for them. Here we go. This is going to be the occupation forces. And the Dutch actually didn't guard the border with Green France very well for some reason because they thought they were chill and they're getting invaded. Actually going to see that the Dutch, actually see Norway might, yeah, they're fighting against Sweden. And they're going to have these occupation forces color, and they're doing good, but not that good. It's back and forth basically. Well, not exactly back and forth because Sweden is stronger than Norway and is able to do this. And they're basically focusing. They're also engaging with the Dutch Navy on the North Sea, but nothing is happening for now. They're chill. Finland is actually joining the squares to gain some land. Yeah, Norway is losing this theater probably. They're at least going to have to fight really hard to try to win this. Because we told the Nordic support basically they're all alone. Yeah, there is a front where the Dutch are doing well. Though. Yeah, they're actually going well against Sweden, Warsaw, land. Actually going to use Dutch color here because it's basically Dutch forces and stuff. Warsaw is doing good against Austria in some places, while in others they're not. Let's just say this might not be good, but then we see an absolute insane country switching sides. This blue English country is joining in, and they now want to unify Britain to form the British Union and to kick the foreign powers out of their country. And yeah, Hibernia did not fortify this border. They're still going to survive most of the. But then Scotland is actually joining the jumping. The circles are actually pretty smart. They're using countries they know they want back to weaken Hibernia. This does do stuff because now Green France is becoming pretty powerful. Like, really powerful. Britain is almost dead. See this getting on out. So we see that the Romans and the Dutch are fighting for their lives, but there isn't actually that much troops flowing in. There's going to be some Roman victories here. Here we're going to see. Well, also all the Alps are kind of stopping the fighting. But the Dutch are doing the most wins here, and it's because they want the revenge against Rome. They want to finally destroy them and to to probably bring back Tuscany and maybe form the Italian Union. But now let's go to the South American front because why not? Also saw this stuff, yeah, with Brazil into probably these nations don't stand any chance. Not gonna lie, they're getting jumped pretty easily. So we're going to see Korea mobilizing their forces, and they basically have to fight only in South America. They have to fight only in North America. Sorry, guys, my bad arrangement. I'm going to use this color because I like this color, and they are stronger than Korea is strong than this country. And basically everybody hates the terrorist country. So they're getting jumped by everyone. Seriously, everyone are just going to name in and jump. They ain't even considering this an occupation forces. They're considering this annexing and purifying the land. This leads to Korea having the first fights with Carolina. Koreans are actually going to sweep in and win most of this fight. Okay, so I forgot also the side Mexico was on, but they probably are on the squares. Let's just say they are. Truly do see this happening. It's actually pretty good, a pretty good offensive. Korea is not unstable, like it's unstable, but not that much because China is helping them to fight this war. Iberia is pretty strong, but also pretty unstable, and this might lead to some stuff. But now let's go back to the old Imperial Mapper front. And I forgot this front was here, and the naval battle is going on. It's pretty. Of course, well, let's just say Andalusia is not lucky, like at all. They're they're going to have the third jumping of their life. We're also going to see Carthage losing some land. Oh, it's the African Union. We can call them Carthage now since there's Moroccan rebellion. So we're going to see Andalusia is in a pretty bad spot. The Carthage is actually going to focus on destroying this rebellion, which they're going to do pretty well, but. And we see this happening. We see on other West African rebellion breaking out. And now the African Union is into a civil war. They're still going to try to fight, but it's going to be difficult because this Chad country has just capitulated over to Galicia. But Hibernia is liberating that land and they're actually still doing pretty well. It's only that Tanzania is pushing back and Galicia might be cooked. How are the Romans doing in Egypt? The answer is this is well, it's a pretty mid front, not gonna lie. Because the Egyptians are actually doing pretty good. They know how to fight in the desert, they know what we have to do, and they can handle the Romans pretty well. Now let's go back to this wonderful front, because Gold Ukraine is can say they now, especially after the farmers' union is getting even more weak, and they're probably going to collapse anyway. So they're now starting. Not only that, but the old empire is weaker than the original timeline. Only going to say the old imperials are still doing some advancements and some invasions. And they're actually going to do pretty good pushback against the Persians. So they know how to fight. And they also have nukes. And they're actually going to. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. We saw. This place has been nuked. The old Empire, the old Empire has just launched a nuke. But this is making the Square Alliance furious. They're also saying, "What the hell are you doing? We're supposed to bring democracy and peace, not chaos and extraction. So the old empire is now going to be basically left alone. They still have some allies, but the major countries are not supporting them. India is still. So I'm going to recall this as until just remember that it's nuked and it's destroyed. This does actually make the old Empyreans push back, but this makes until a flow with nationalism, and then I want to destroy the old empire and to kill it basically, and it for it to never come back. Considering what is happening, makes pretty good makes sense. India is actually still invading into Persia. They're one of the few nations which is still helping the old empire. And they're invading against Bangladesh, which has now the South Chinese support, so they're kind of pushing back. Truly do see Vietnam starting their counterattack, and they're still holding on, and they look like a pretty hard enemy to break. Even though the South Chinese are still winning. I'm not going to use an occupation forces for them. Sorry, chat. Oh, also staking, I'm really sorry for what is happening to your Vietnam. Hopefully you can forgive me. Actually going to see this happening. Vietnam is still going to do this pushback though. And they're surviving. Kind of. So we're going to see. I forgot chat. I forgot what is it. Wait. Yeah, let's go over the world and take a look at what's happening. Because Mexican troops are just going into the border and helping and try to liberate. But Korea is still marching. This country wasn't set up properly. And also this is pretty cold though. So there might be that. Koreans are kinda used to the cold since they got Alaska. We're going to see that the North American theater might be over soon. Central America's country is going to be neutral. So we're going to see the pink Peruvian country falling over, and we have the unification of Peru under kind of democratic government. After this, yellow Chile is neutral, even if they are allies, they're neutral. After this and the kind of fall of this brown Argentinian and this kind of anarchist terrorist. After this, the South American bloc of the square, they're actually asking the circles for peace, separate peace deal, and they're accepting because fighting less countries is good. So let's take a look. Here we go, we see that we have a rightful Peruvian country with Colombia and Brazil. Brazil gained some land. But let's see, this country is still fighting, but it's going to surrender to the Hibernians, which actually still have a powerful army, but they might not have the capacity to use it anymore. And it's because, oh, that's not good. But yeah, the squares are actually a good alliance. Like they treat their colonies fairly well. but the circles founded this rebellion, and they they're pretty close, and they're still pretty strong, and it's a strong rebellion which was like really strong and supported by the Galatians, which are over here. Thanks to them, they are they are making a pushback to Hibernia. Tanzania is actually going to free themselves from the Galatians, and they're winning this war as a whole. Let's take a look at the civil war here because it's not going well. The rebellion has just connected themselves up. And especially in the desert, they're pretty powerful. And Orange Guinea has just decided to leave the war for safety reasons. And we have now a new rebellion. I know this might sound unrealistic, but remember, the circles are heavily funding this. You might get into debt. And now we see that Carthage is dying. And Rome is going to do stuff thanks to this. They are invading Sardinia. They are taking over Sicily. And they're fighting for Malta right now. Which will also see Catalonians finally retake the Balearic Islands. While here Andalusia is just going to surrender, even though they're probably going to. Yeah, they might not exist anymore. Especially because they're actually going to get annexed by Carthage. Like, Carthage is going to straight up occupy them. And it might be the final land gained by Carthage in all this war. And okay, we have some occupation forces which are trying to liberate the country, but we do not know how much is going. So we're going to see Gold Ukraine doing this, marching into Greece, and also marching into the Farmers Union. Farmers Union is just going to surrender. The old government of like I think the eastern part, yeah, they're coming back with another country that war is starting to breaking up. And also supplies are arriving to the Polish front, which are kind of changing how all of this is going to. Sorry guys if it's going to be a long video, but yeah. Also, they're annexing this land because why not? They're also taking over this encirclement. The Dutch are still one of the strongest countries of the squares, and probably one of the last hope. They're actually going to finally start the battle for Copenhagen. And if they take it over, they might turn the tides. Meanwhile, the Brittany has fallen to the Green France. Truly see this getting taken over. And the Dutch somehow are really incompetent against them. Meanwhile, they're still doing pretty well against the Romans. Like, really doing well. And Rome is actually starting to get scared of a possible Dutch victory. Meanwhile, here in Hibernia, we see some other people joining up with the British rebellion. This is what they can do. Oh yeah, this is not good. See actual Iceland becoming their own country, they're independent now, and they are free. It's not an occupation force, it's the Republic of Iceland. The first, not because there's a second, but because it's the first time. See, Icelandic Republic. Actually, going to see Sweden. The Norwegians are actually surrendering to the forces, and with Norway surrender, the Dutch are kind of surrounded. Now let's go back to the old Empire front. So here where the Romans are finally being able to do well. The Egyptians are actually going to do something because they have a border with the Galatians, so they're getting jumped. Let's just say this. Lots of countries are getting jumped in this series. And they're joining up with the old empire. The old empires are actually now annexing this land. I don't know how this is going, but it might go well, it might not go well. And now the old empires are longer front to fight on with their fellow Indian friends. But anyways, let's go here to Greece because they aren't holding much well now. Only that. We'll see this happening. But we're actually going to see that we actually see this rebellion, and after this rebellion, Greece is going to surrender to these circular powers. We actually see a second Bulgarian country. This is insane. This leads to a nationalistic lavender country to push back. Even though the old Empyreans are once again marching, they get stopped. And now Caspian troops are. They're going to do all of this. And now, we actually see the old Empyrean capital is pretty close to dying. And they're not realizing that creating the old empire and doing all the stuff was a bad idea. But then they found out who killed the old empire leader. Because they found out. And it was the Dutch. And now they're saying, alright, what the hell? Why did the Dutch do that? The answer was because they do not want another rival to them. And yeah, this is not a good thing. And I'm actually thinking they might go fascist again. And they do not want that to happen. So even the Dutch are now getting isolated. And this is a great thing. They would like to annex Austria, but they cannot this time because the Austrians are now don't not want to cooperate with the Dutch, and they're letting circular troops pass through them. They basically switched sides, and this might be the final thing for the Dutch. Now let's go back over here where Vietnam isn't scared of anything and is still keeping their good fight. They aren't winning though. They're still a pretty bad position until, we'll just say Tibet once land. They enter the war, they invade this land, and then they leave. We're going to see the Persians finally push back over here too. And they capture this, which is almost all the empire capital. The capital is now surrounded, and it might be a repeat of World War One. And they took a lot to try and rebuild and form this empire. They do not want this to happen again. So, the old empire is officially dissolving itself to prevent the siege and extraction of the capital. This is insane. This leads to occupation zones being established until World War III ends. And oh heck yeah, we're back with the 40-minute videos. Well, this is the finale, I guess. So you guys deserve this. This the other half the old. So what happened is basically that the blue team surrendered, and this is all the land the blue team occupied and has. With the Middle Eastern front over, war might be over soon. And India is now being demoralized, and they're actually leaving the war. Yes, chat, they're leaving the war. What happens is that they have a separate peace deal, and they annex some land, but that's really it. So they get stronger, like a bit stronger. Also, the South Indian country is going to live. Interesting. Now let's take a look at the bar. We actually see this Angolan rebellion, and they want. They're tired of this because they wanted, and also our Baron is a bit unstable. They want independence now because they didn't want the war. Of course, they're a pretty peaceful group, the Hibernians. And this Cold War for them was a big mistake made by the government, and it's a failed attempt. Try to bring world peace. And now everybody are kind of understanding where this is going. Carthage is still trying to hold, but it's not going well now. It's going down now. As we can see, the Galatians are using the wrong color, but they are almost there. They kept the Gibraltar Strait, and all of the Andalusian, they're basically just surrendering themselves to Catalonia. This might be N. It's definitely N. But we can see Malta has finally been conquered. We see this happening. And the Romans have captured Carthage. They have done it. They have captured one of the key centers of the Cold War. One of the strongest countries' capital is being captured. Now surely everything will change. Whoa, they got repelled. But Rome is still fighting. They're probably going to retake Carthage anyways. This leads to the West Moroccan rebellion spreading. Keep in mind, this is not only a rebellion, this might be multiple rebellions. And then we see the final nail in the coffin as this land officially declares independence from Carthage. And with that, Carthage will surrender, and World War III has been lost. Another big country had just died like that. Let's go to the American front, where Mexico is still winning, but now most of the countries are getting tired of war and they do not want a nuclear war because most of these countries are nuclear powers. There is that risk. So they Carolina kinda decides to pull out for their people. This is the final map. Carolina and Mexico will pull out. Mexico will actually gain land into separate peace deal. And they're all annexing all of this. Mexico actually became stronger after World War III. So you guys can see it's not. But then also we see this Argentinian country joining, which is Patagonia. They're just annexing some Iberian islands, and now people are rebelling. The Buenos Aires Confederation has just been declared, and they're straight up leaving the war. Hibernia is going to lose Rigo. The Republic of Great Uruguay has just been declared, and they're leaving World War III. Hibernia is almost dead. Their colonial empire is Africa. In Africa is having their sunset. As we can see this war happening. We're seeing Tanzania getting the land. Really going to say Galatian troops are now finally in Tanzania gain land just to preserve. And they know they cannot fight a war now. For this reason, they have to leave for safety reasons. This will be called the War of Humiliation, basically. Not the War of the Greats, but the War of Humiliation. That's actually a good war. I don't think any Wix YouTuber did that. But Carthage surrendered, by the way. So, yeah. What are the final countries remaining? Well, we have Vietnam, which is doing well here, not doing well on those fronts. They're actually making a separate peace deal, just like the others, and they're basically exchanging land. Interesting. But now let's go to the final front because, yeah, the Dutch are dying. They're losing another door. At this point, they want to use their nuke, but people ain't allowing that. See the Romans finally doing that great push, the great march against the Dutch Empire. What means this is basically they're getting cooked, but like really cooked. And after this is happening, they might have to surrender to keep their at least some of their claims, especially after Rome has just done this. Like they're tired after another defeat to the Green French and all of the circular troops. They ain't allowing them to invade Amsterdam. And now, after another great march, yeah, it's basically every circular power is marching now. After this, they are officially surrendering. Meanwhile, here, Hibernia is pretty cooked. Their colonial empire is dead, it's extinct, it doesn't exist anymore. Sorry, Hibernia fans, they know what I'm talking about. 50 minutes of video is insane. And I'm going to do the peace treaty now because the war is basically over and the British Union thing doesn't fail. They take on Wales. This is the end, chat. The end of World War Three. I'm going to do the peace treaty, and yeah, the American colonies are also kind of leaving. Most of them are. Let's take a look at the peace treaty. Oh, I forgot to say that this country surrendered, of course. Here is the peace treaty of World War Three. It's a completely different world. I think I didn't miss anything out. So let's take a look. Korea, here in the Americas, gained some of the lost land. We see that Carolina expanded a bit, they made a trade deal and stuff. The deal. See these countries gaining independence. We see New York becoming big. Carolina is actually still a pretty decent country. And the squares probably are gonna survive even though not as a global country. Like the weaker here in South America, everything goes well. The Falkland Islands and that island get annexed by Patagonia. Here we see a trade, like an exchange, basically. South China annexes some Vietnamese land, and Vietnam annexes this panhandle, and becomes it goes a bit little bit west. Well, Bangladesh was a strong country, but they got their land reduced in World War III. We see Tanzania losing some land, but still remaining a pretty strong country. So this rebellion got spread into three countries. They have heavily funded this. Then we also got Galicia, which became an absolute monster. Like they became strong, but like really strong. Also got the old empire doesn't exist anymore. They aren't allowed to reform at all. We got the Orange Jordan country coming back. We see Blue Arabia getting weakened with Rome having an occupation zone here. We see Galicia having not an occupation zone, kind of colony. Actually, let's give Gold Ukraine one. Let's give them Qatar. Alright, this is the full peace treaty. We see that Persia, yeah, we'll see that the old empire is basically Antalya, which annexed the Suez Canal. Rome expanded, Egypt doesn't exist anymore. Green Team will gain money. Yeah, the old empire capital is conquered by Persia and occupied probably forever. Hopefully, that's what will happen. India will get some land because they won World War III, and Gold Ukraine became they control all of the Black Sea. They're pretty strong. They also do have a puppet state here. We see this is Serbia, new Farmers Union government, which isn't communist but circles aligned. Actually, do secret will try to get land. Maybe they can do this. We'll see. Actually, this land will be given to Crete just to weaken Greece even more, which is already weak thanks to Bulgarian rebellion. Rome will annex a few provinces. The Carthage is pretty crippled. They still survived because Rome failed the siege of Carthage. Even though Rome will annex Sicily, Sardinia, some Tunisian land, and Malta. Oh yeah, I forgot this. As I anticipated before, Galicia Andalusia does not exist anymore, and Catalonia became wide and strong. Same thing with Galicia, which basically have the biggest empire ever. Well, we have Green France, which became pretty strong now. They're a pretty cool European power now. GFN will like this. We actually see Rome becoming like the Western Roman Empire, and they annexed a lot of land. So and now it looks like Rome has got their everything perfect. We'll next a bunch of Austrian provinces because Austria got reduced, and they're now basically a Warsaw puppet state. Well, Africa, this is Africa. You can see we have Warsaw becoming big, Sweden becoming big, Finland becoming a bit bigger. Commerce Union is pretty jumped. The current puppet state. We see the formation of the British Union, and the Hibernia got really weak, but they still are alive. And well, guys, that's it. This is the end of Roma Invicta. We could go even forward into like what to the post-war stuff. Well, tell me in the comments if you guys would like eight parts to for the post-war stuff. But if it doesn't, this is the finale. Thank you guys for watching this long video. This will be the last time. Say goodbye to Roma Invicta and welcome to a new series which I will make. And it will be it won't be a map chart. Well, it might be, but it depends. See you then.